The stories go back hundreds of years. Young men go out on the lake and they don't come back. In many cases, the body is never found at the lake. But what is really to blame? If you ask the locals, they'll tell you. The princess. I'm Shooey, and this is Strangeful Things.
Sheltering in place is not advised, as your survival cannot be ensured in that scenario.
Love has practically caused me to just get you destroyed.
Unsolved, unresolved, and super complicated.
Strangeful Things.
Hey everybody, this is Acadia Einstein. I am here with Mells and Jennifer Sandwich and Shooey, and we are here to bring you Strangeful Things, and this time it is a original Shooey episode. Congratulations, Shooey, on writing your first story for us.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be, part of the team.
Yay, Shooey! Good for you.
Hooray! But I just want to know, this is the original Shooey? And there was a fake Shooey before?
Will the real Shooey please stand up?
Please stand
That
up.
may have been a fake Shooey, but then it turned out that season didn't count. It turned out it was all a dream. So
It was all a dream.
Yep, so the fake Shooey didn't count.
Yeah.
Movies that end like that. Lost. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh.
I shouldn't say that about Lost because who fucking knows?
Nobody really knows
Nobody
what their
knows.
deal was.
Yeah.
Which is what everyone wants, closure.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like The Sopranos.
That's
Yeah.
what you lost?
I'd like to know I'd like to not know what the fuck. It's like that old story with the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe or something.
Was that about a lion, a witch, and a wardrobe?
Oh man, it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite books when I
was in
younger.
4th grade, I think, and the library in town came to our school to interview kids about what their favorite book was, and mine was Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. And they asked what it was about, and I said, A Lion, a Witch, and a Wardrobe.
Girl, stop.
And I was like, I was like 7 or something.
You couldn't say it any more succinctly. That was perfect.
I was a clown. Born
Beautiful
a clown.
summary.
See, when I was that young, all my favorite books were film adaptations because I didn't actually read the book.
There you go. There you go.
I loved Star Wars the book,
There you go.
Indiana Jones the book.
Oh my gosh.
So, for my first show hosting, I'd like to take you home to my home, Ronkonkoma, New York. Remember, that's how it's actually said. I'm sure you will hear many different pronunciations of it later this show. Specifically to the little lake in the town. Lake, wait for it, Ronkonkoma. Lake Ronkonkoma is for the most part a roundish lake in the center of Long Island. And for those of you who don't know where Long Island is, if you look at a map of New York, it's the little wang hanging off the southeastern tip.
Oh, okay. So wait, this is like the Florida for Long Island then?
Yes, it just sticks out instead of going down. It's more like an erect wang versus, one that's just kind of hanging down.
The long
there.
floppy.
I mean, we already know it doesn't have any pants on since it's bottomless. So
Yes, this lake is bottomless. If you ever heard of rich people going out to the Hamptons, that's on one end of the island, the part sticking out into the ocean. The other end, pointing towards New York City, is where Queens and Brooklyn are. And like I said, Ronkonkoma is in the middle. See, Long Island's actually pretty big, especially population-wise. And to put that in perspective, if it were its own state, it would be the 13th most populous state in the nation.
Oh, really?
It's the 18th. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's crazy.
It's the 18th most populated island in the world, ahead of Ireland and Jamaica.
wow, that's fascinating.
Fight
It
them.
is. Oh, we could take them. We could take them. Well, I think if we did a battle of accents, the Long Island accent would lose to Ireland and Jamaica. But
yeah, that's true. They
know.
do have better accents. But I'd say we conquer Ireland and then retire to Jamaica.
Yeah.
Works
I
for
love
me.
it.
All right, done.
Okay. So before we get to our story, I'm going to give you all some background on what kind of a messed up place Long Island really is. Maybe there'll be a new Strangeful story in here.
Ooh.
So for some of the stuff that's gone on Long Island, the most famous of the fucked up Long Island stories is the Amityville Horror House.
Ooh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, everybody's heard of that, right?
Yeah.
This house in the town of Amityville, which is like 25 minutes from my house. Everything on Long Island is either 25 minutes from where you live or 15 minutes from where you live.
I like
Everything.
it. I like it.
So it's about 25 minutes from my house. On November 13th, 1974, this was the scene of a mass murder when Ronald DeFeo Jr. took a rifle and killed his entire family, which included his parents and 4 siblings. The next family that moved into the house said that the place was haunted and only lasted there for about 28 days. And that became the subject of some books and movies and sequels to those movies, and even a crappy remake in 2005 with Ryan Reynolds and an as yet unknown and seemingly unknown again, Chloe Grace Moretz.
What?
It wasn't that crappy.
I know you have.
I actually watched that
It
movie.
was pretty crappy.
It's
It was at least as good as Green Lantern in the
Oh.
Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, that's
Vain.
rough, man.
I have to say this was better because he was really ripped in this movie and
Agreed.
he just looked super hot. So I can forgive any maybe subpar acting that might have happened. Right, Jen?
agreed.
Is that how we judge movies, by how ripped the guy is in the movie?
of how
Oh, yeah, that's
Ryan
how
Reynolds
women
the
do.
movie is?
Yeah, that's true.
We have to
How
get
Ryan
specific.
Reynolds it is. You're right,
Yeah.
Sandwich. That's a good, yeah. That's a good meter right there.
Right. 5 out of 5 stars. Ryan Reynolds, butt. I like it.
Yeah. How much
6 out of 6
How much
pack.
skin is exposed? Okay, you get 5 stars.
He'll always be Deadpool to me, though.
Mm.
Well, now I'm sold. I may have to give it another chance.
Glad we could talk you into that, Shooey.
Oh, thanks. I got a lot of time to kill. Long Island has also had its share of serial killers. There was Joel Rifkin, who in the early 90s admitted to killing 17 prostitutes and was caught only because he was pulled over by a state trooper for driving without a license plate. Unfortunately for him, he had a body in the trunk.
So dumb.
It's the dumbest thing.
Yeah,
They are
that's-
all so dumb in the end.
That's just a bad choice.
Did he go, where's your license plate? And he go, in the trunk.
Uh,
Oh, no.
right? Oh,
He's like, don't look in the trunk. Don't look in the trunk.
It's
There's nothing in there. I swear it. I swear to God. What's that dripping from the trunk? Nothing.
Yeah.
oil.
It's Kool-Aid or
Isn't this
something.
America?
I spilled some tomato juice.
Well, no, officer. There's nothing suspicious in the trunk of my car. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious.
That works.
Yay, TikTok.
Oh, I know that from Parks and Rec.
Oh,
Oh,
they do it on TikTok all the time now.
I'm not hip on the TikTok. Or
Oh,
TikTok.
TikTok. You
Yeah,
are
I'm
just
not
such a
hip on the TikTok.
you are such a millennial, Acadia. Listen, watching TikTok.
Oh,
Like
he's
kids
a
watch.
he's a Zoomer. The Zoomers, they love that TikTok.
Oh yeah. I love to get on the TikToks.
I'm trying to do a Long Island accent and I'm failing miserably, so I apologize.
That's
I'm
okay.
not
That's
trying
what everybody fails at.
Just channel your Fran Drescher. Just channel your nanny.
Oh, it's
Hey.
Oh no! What?
Now that's offensive.
Oh no! I'm
That's
sorry.
a Queen's accent,
Oh, is it?
not a Long Island.
Okay, listen. I don't know if y'all figured this out by now, but I'm not exactly like a connoisseur of accents or geography, so
a Georgia accent's way different from a Kentucky accent, which is way different from an Alabama accent.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay.
Oh, totally.
I'll give it to you, Shooey.
See?
That's true. If someone says, "Are you from Alabama?" I'm like, "How dare you?"
I'll cut your face.
Hey, my kids go to school there. Let's not do too
Well,
much.
In
that's
Alabama?
Yeah. Roll Tide.
I'm not putting them down. I am not putting them down. I'm just saying, like, yeah, when you're in the South, it's a territorial thing. So I get
Yeah,
it. Okay,
yeah.
so that's Queens. Now
That's Queens.
That's what my lesson I've learned in this episode. Thank you.
Oh, we'll be doing a lot of teaching in this.
Oh,
episode.
good.
So everyone, get your notebooks
Oh, I'm
out and
ready.
your pencils.
Oh yeah, I've been taking
And
notes.
be ready.
I've been taking notes.
Okay, excellent. So, in addition to Joel Rifkin, now we have the Long Island serial killer, also known as the Gilgo Beach Killer, who is believed to have killed between 10 and 16 women and is the subject of the Netflix movie Lost Girls.
And they never found this guy, right?
No,
it could
he
be
is
a girl
still out there
Yeah.
somewhere.
I never found
It
this
could be
person.
anybody, yeah.
Wow, so scary.
It is. Moving away from serial killers, we also have a couple of abandoned psychiatric centers that are said to be haunted. And in fact, one of them was one of the inspirations for the FX series American Horror Story Asylum, the Asylum season, which took place in 2012.
Yes, Briarcliff. Shout out. Briarcliff.
Nice work.
It was Kings Park was the one on Long Island that they based it upon.
Nice.
Although that season was Emma Roberts free, so it's not as good as some of the other seasons.
Nah, yeah.
Yeah, if you say so.
Yeah.
Then we had the Montauk Monster, which was a hairless dog-like creature that washed up on the beach.
Oh, whoa.
Of course, it ended up being a raccoon, but
Did it?
ooh, it was very spooky looking.
I mean, have you ever seen a hairless raccoon before? I mean, like, if you've never seen it before and you're not expecting it, you would think, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, you'd be like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, nobody is expecting a hairless raccoon.
Oh,
No.
man.
Nobody expects a hairless raccoon.
Exactly.
That sounds like some weird analogy for something I don't understand.
Yeah. Could be going in. We might be going down a rabbit hole or a raccoon hole. We don't want to right now.
A raccoon hole.
One of life's great mysteries.
It made front page news when it was found. That was a very slow news day.
You've heard of Loch Ness Monster, but what about the hairless
Yes,
raccoon?
we wanted to have the Montauk Monster.
It's the best you could do.
We figured we could get T-shirts,
I love it.
maybe get some tourists.
Oh man. Okay. That's
Then
great.
on a sadder note, there was Flight 800,
Mhm.
which inexplicably crashed off the coast of Long Island in 1996.
Tragic.
Yeah, that was terrible. But they never really found out why it happened. And finally, for this show at least, there's Plum Island, which is a top secret government facility on a small island off the east end of Long Island. The island is kind of like the CDC for animal diseases, but it's believed that some really shady shit has gone on there as well over the years. And just a quick aside before we get into what we're actually here to talk about, in 1975, a new disease was discovered in a small Connecticut town just 13 miles from Plum Island. Doctors had never seen anything like it before, how it attacked the human body, and it's strongly believed that it was man-made. The town was Old Lyme, and the disease is Lyme's disease.
Whoa. Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Freaky.
So it could have been. So Lyme's disease could have been man-made
Whoa.
disease, maybe.
It's believed that is the case. But we're not here to talk about any of those things. We're here to talk about the Princess of the Lake, Princess Tuscawanta. She's also referred to as the Lady of the Lake, but since they already used that hundreds of years ago in the King Arthur tale, I refuse to repeat it. So I call her the Princess of the Lake. But before we get to this princess thing, okay, we're going to be doing a little teaching and learning during this episode, as many of the terms that we use to represent Native Americans are either wrong or offensive. So first, we use the term princess because that's what everyone knows the story, who knows the story calls her. But Native Americans didn't have a term like that. It's just something that white people created because that's what we called the leader's daughter.
Oh.
They would also refer to their leader as a sachem or headman, not a chief. Chief's another insulting term that again, white people created for folks in that position. I'm not going to get into why it's offensive. I just think we should all be respectful. So, we'll use the right stuff.
100%.
So with all of that out of the way, thank you. With all of that out of the way, a very brief history of Ronkonkoma.
Good intro, Chief.
Oh gosh.
Excellent. You have to get your notebook and pencil out because you obviously haven't been taking notes.
We got a lot to teach you. Yeah. Well, for hundreds of years, the area now known as Ronkonkoma,
Perfect.
Nice.
Perfect. Was home to
Right on the nose.
nice. Was home to 4 Native American nations because, tribes being another no term, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The Nissequogs. Yeah?
Perfect.
All right. We're 2 for 2.
Really doing great.
The Secatogs.
Woo.
Nailed it.
No! The Unkachogs.
Beautiful.
Okay. And the Setaukets.
4 for 4. Woo!
All right. Well,
Hey, everybody, thanks. That was a great
that's it.
show.
I'm wrapping up. Let me just pop my knuckles
Going out on
here.
a high note.
Woo! All right. I did my studying on this. All right. Well, they all lived a pretty peaceful existence. They shared the lake and surrounding hunting grounds. They were super chill. Then, in the mid-1600s, who should arrive to just fuck everything up for everyone?
Would that be white people?
Oh, ding, ding, ding. Yes, you get the square. So, the British settled around the lake and began hunting and fishing and logging. It was this settlement that led to the story that my lovely sandwich is about to tell. My lovely sandwich.
Beautiful.
My love.
My
Gorgeous
beautiful
sandwich.
flowering sandwich.
Change all our literature.
Okay, the legend goes like this. One day when walking on the frozen lake, a Setauket princess, Tuscawanta, spotted a British settler, Hugh Birdsall, a woodcutter, because that's a thing back in the days. You just
Sure,
cut
why
wood.
not?
All the,
I cut wood. I'm a woodcutter.
Also known as a vagina. I'm just kidding.
Is it like a
Oh.
whale's vagina?
I'm just joking.
Oh my god. Well, he's a woodcutter, and they locked eyes, but for whatever reason, never approached each other. Tuscawanta only ever seen one hunky white guy ever, because I think there's only one. Immediately fell in love. She wanted to go visit him at his cabin or house or whatever was fashionable living in mid-17th century Long Island. Unfortunately, she approached her father, the sachem of the Setaukets. Now remember, chief is bad. So she approaches him about it, and he forbade her to see Birdsall. Tuscawanta obeyed, but she had to let Birdsall know how she felt. So what she did, for 7 years, that's right, 7 years, was paddle her canoe out to the center of the lake and leave love notes carved into tree bark, hoping that they would float to the other side of the lake and to Birdsall. It's not known if he ever received any of the notes, but it is known that Tuscawanta never got a reply.
Oh, no.
Okay, so I just want to interrupt for a second. So, notes on bark. Efficient love note medium? Your thoughts.
Yikes. I mean, 7 years for I'm not into you, stop it. This is like...
There must have been like a naked tree somewhere at this point,
Wow.
right?
Meanwhile, some kid on the other side of the lake is like, what are these bark notes for?
Somebody's totally into me.
Who is this secret admirer?
Also, none of us can read.
Oh, goodness.
I don't know what any of this means, but it's
What
important.
language is this?
my. Well, I have, believe it or not, which I'm sure at this point you believe it because I have a story every episode. But I do actually know someone that I worked with several years ago. Every day on her lunch break, she would go out because there was a wooded area behind the building we worked in. So she would go out there and she would peel bark off of trees back there, and she would bring them back in to her cubicle, and she would write little notes on it, and it would drop it off on people's desks. And I was always thinking, Shelley, why? I mean, it's whimsical, I guess. I don't know, but at the same time, I'm tired of getting tree bark all over my desk every day. Like, just send me an email. I don't need bark mail. Okay, like, silly. She was sweet as pie, but she was. I never to this day could figure out why she did that.
But what was it like? Tree you later and like stupid puns and shit like that?
She would like it would. I mean, it would just be like a little heart, or I mean, it was like hieroglyphics. I guess I don't know. Like maybe if I kept all of them and not thrown them away, maybe it was one of those like pictogram things. You know, remember those games where you would have to figure out what the saying was based on different pictures.
Yeah, maybe if you put them all together, it was like some big secret message.
Now I'm mad at myself for not being that smart several years ago to see if she might have been in trouble and needed help.
You just figured it out.
Oh my god.
She was like
911.
I'm forced to live in the basement. I'm locked up at night. Please save me.
I can only send this on Bark.
She was rich. And she's like, I'm going to figure out which one of these people is really my friend. I'm going to send complicated clues to where all my money is.
Oh, man.
They got to stick with it.
I'd never forgive myself if that was what became
right? Can you
of
imagine?
It. I mean, this is also the lady who, after we had, like, roasted chicken, you know, that you get from the supermarket and you bring in for, like, Thanksgiving potluck. Like, this was also the lady that fished the carcass out of the trash can and then like 2 days later brought in broth that she had made from it and tried to give it to people. So I don't know.
Okay.
So she just didn't have paper. That's what it was.
I think she was lacking a lot of things. She was sweet as pie, but wow, what a lady.
Well, after 7 long years of canoeing, dropping bark notes, Tuscawanta became dejected. But only after 7 years. There was always a chance.
She hung in tight for 7
7 years. Right.
I know there's a chance. I just know if I keep trying.
Can't give up now.
And then 7 years. Well, I give up. So, because apparently she was so hung up on this guy, she never found love amongst the members of the Setaukets. There, nailed it. One night, feeling disheartened. Sorry. One night.
Tuscawanta cleared her throat.
Yep. Listen up. I'm feeling especially disheartened tonight.
Oh,
I know. She paddles out to the middle of the lake, but instead of just sending another note, she plunged a knife into her chest, killing herself. The next morning, her farewell note and canoe washed up on the shore and was found by none other than Hugh Birdsall.
Whoa.
Huey. So while that is the version that most folks in the area know, there are other variations of the story. Sometimes the doomed protagonist is a guy. Sometimes both lovers are Native American. Stuff like that. Many of the stories stick pretty close to the Tuscawanta tale. In order to be fair to the folks who made up those other stories, because obviously the story we just told you is true, we'll share these as well. Acadia.
Do I got to tell all the lie stories?
Well, you tell most of them, yeah.
All right. The first story involves another female native and a European male. In this one, the native woman and man have an actual relationship, but are found out by another member of the Setaukets. Their love exposed, they are forbidden to see each other. So again, feeling dejected and unloved, the woman kills herself in her canoe on the lake. But this time, her body is in the canoe when it's found by her European lover. He's so upset that
Jacques.
He climbs into the canoe and is never seen again because the canoe was gigantic. This is especially odd This is really spacious. This is especially odd as you can easily see fully across the lake. So how would one disappear? We may never know. So this story is the lake that everyone can see every part of if they just look at it.
Yeah.
They lost a canoe.
It's only a mile across, so.
All right. The second one's is a little different. It's still a love story, which is important because I love chick flicks.
Hey,
And
now.
What?
Chick flicks.
Can't help it. I am.
He said he loves them.
I just read them. I read the books of them. I read the book.
There
I
are no
read the
such
book
thing
of
as
Love
chick
Actually.
flicks.
He's a big Nicholas Sparks fan.
Chickens don't like
Huge.
TV.
All right, here we go from the top. The second is a bit different.
They
It's
like
still a-
Chicken Little.
Yeah, they do. That's true.
The second is a bit different. It's still a love story, which is important since I love romantic comedies
there we
so
go.
much.
There you
Yeah,
go.
in this one, there was a princess. Sorry, princess sounds better than Sachem's daughter. From the Secatog Nation. The Secatogs were located a couple of miles south of Lake Ronkonkoma. The princess fell in love with a member of the neighboring Puspatuk Nation. Of course, they were forbidden from being together because apparently that was a thing. That's kind of the central theme of the whole
Nobody's
fucking night.
allowed
If
to
you're
be with
forbidden,
anybody.
yeah, I know, right?
Everyone's
Can I go to the
forbidden.
prom? Yeah, no, forbidden. One night, the two snuck out of their respective villages and walked a couple miles through wolf and bear and saber-toothed tiger infested I'm going to fact check you on that one.
I don't know. That's the research said.
There were definitely
This is-
saber-toothed tigers around during this time.
This was a
Oh,
much.
definitely on Long Island.
This is definitely the oldest story of the group. Then Long Island was a dangerous place back then. They met up at the lake and they paddled out to a romantic section of the completely fucking round lake to make love. Where was the romantic section?
The window, right? They mean the one where everybody can see everything that's going on in the lake.
Yes, exactly. Which is every
Right.
place on the lake. And I did say make love. This is a classy show.
Gross.
If this was a story
No.
about Long Island
Ugh.
now, we would say they paddled out to a romantic section of the lake to take the log to the beaver or something else like that. Unfortunately, the natives' gods did not approve of the cross-nation relationship. They got gods in it now and felt they
Oh,
needed
they
to
did.
intervene. It's nice to see that their gods could be dicks too. The canoe sunk and their bodies are said to have fallen forever into the cold depths of the lake.
All right, so that's a lot of Acadia for a Shooey story. So we're going to have Mells tell the last of these stories.
Oh, okay. Well, it is my honor. Thank you. Now, closing remarks. Finally, the last story we'll tell y'all does not involve forbidden love. I know. Shocking. While their love was not forbidden, that didn't mean things would work out for them. If it did, it wouldn't even make it through the first script meeting. Yes, that's right. We have meetings.
The first read through.
Yeah. We have meetings, and this is a very high-end operation. So anyway,
Well-oiled machine.
yeah. In this tale, the couple are members of one of the local nations. No specific nation is given, but the two fall deeply in love and eventually are to be married. As the wedding approached, preparations began for the big day. The bride was making her gown, not knowing much about Native American weddings. I assume they had to book a hall and band. And of course, the wedding painter. Oh,
Fucking wedding.
I think they
painting.
only. From what I know of my family, there was a lot of peyote and flute blowing around, going around. So I think the entertainment was booked already. So. All right, so about a week before the wedding, the bride's world was destroyed.
Oh.
The groom was killed by a white man from the town of Ronkonkoma, where he
course.
refused to trade him some beaver pelts for whatever lint was in the white guy's pocket. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, they didn't like fair trades back then.
Yeah, no. This is why I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. The bride's heart was broken. She could not deal with the pain of losing her love. She knew there would never be justice. The settler was never going to pay for his trespasses. On what would have been the eve of their wedding, the bride, dressed in her gown, walked to the edge of the water, and then Garth Brooks wrote a song called Cheyenne about it. Oh, wait, no, that's not right. This isn't Beaches of Cheyenne. This is Beaches of Long Island. Sorry. All right.
Ronkonkoma.
Woo.
Billy Joel would have written this song about it.
There we go. Okay, sorry. Then, Billy, I'm trademarking that. I know you listen, and if you fucking come out with this, I want money off of it. All right. She was so distraught in her grief that she believed she saw her groom dancing and calling to her from below the surface of the water. Ooh. Oh, much like Jack and Rose.
As grooms often do.
Yeah. I'll never let go.
There's room on the door.
Yeah. She took the words right out of my mouth on that one.
Sorry, there was, though.
No, I know. There was... Okay, listen, aside. There was plenty of room on that fucking door for him.
So I don't know what she was thinking.
Maybe if she had lost the life jacket because she was on a fucking floating door, she could have let him up there. All right, anyway. Or she could have gave it to him. All right, back to the story. All right. She called back at him 3 times as he continued to beckon her. Finally, determined to be with him, she rowed out on a canoe to the center of the lake. Does this sound familiar?
Yep.
It should. Because we've already talked about it. But she was so determined to die, she tied cinder blocks through her legs and went swimming with the fishes. This is the beginning of The Sopranos, okay? Well, she sank, obviously, okay? And like Tuscaloosa, she was never found in the lake.
Oh.
Your Honor, I rest my case.
Hold that thought. We've got a word from our sponsor.
Go.
Were you traumatized as a child by watching Unsolved Mysteries?
Do you like to judge facial hair?
Guess what?
We have a podcast for you.
Can you believe it? It's called Perhaps It's You. And it is an unofficial Unsolved Mysteries rewatch podcast.
We're your hosts. I'm Samantha.
I'm Liz. We're 2 cool mystery ants, not really, watch an episode of Unsolved Mysteries each week.
And tell you about it.
We update you if any of the mysteries have been solved.
We rate the episode on a scale of Robert Stacks. We can give episodes a possible 5 out of 5 Robert Stacks, although it rarely happens.
Very rarely. We also complain about what everyone is wearing. And it doesn't really matter if you know anything about Unsolved Mysteries or not. You should tune in because it's the #1 podcast on iTunes.
Yeah, you can find us on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, most podcast platforms. You can also check out our website, perhapsit'syou.com, or find us on the social medias at Perhaps It's You.
Yep. And
get out there and solve some mysteries, bitches.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mells and Acadia, for your eloquent stories.
My pleasure.
So, everyone, which do you think is which is your favorite story? Do you think any of them actually happened or anything like that? Or except, of course, for the Tuscaloosa story, which is, obviously real.
They're all utter horse shit.
What? Oh, hot take.
She was murdered. She was murdered, I tell you.
You think?
Yeah, totally.
What's the motive on that? They always talk about motive.
It was either one of her relatives who were like, she is seeing some white guy, or it was the white guy did something terrible to her and didn't want her to go telling all of her people and killed her himself.
Well, in the second story, the gods killed him because they were like, nope, none of this mixing. No mixing in, so we're going to smite you and throw you into this bottomless lake.
Well, I think it was her father. And I think he said, we aren't going to associate. You aren't going to associate with that white boy down the street, okay?
And then he killed her because she wouldn't stop taking the canoe out.
Daddy, I love him. I have to be with him.
He hasn't written me back on the tree bark yet, but one day.
Oh, man.
He's like, honey, none of our trees have bark anymore. You're
yeah, see, that's what really sent him over the edge. He was like, not only are you seeing a white boy, but you're using all of our natural resources.
All of our canoe material.
We need this bark.
Yeah, and Hugh couldn't cut them anymore because they were all dead. He's like, my whole goddamn job is cutting down live trees, and every tree on this side of the lake is dead.
All right, so back to Princess Tuscaloosa. dead by her own hand, seemingly because she could no longer live without her hunky woodcutter, Hugh Birdsall, who we have not even established knew she existed.
Oh, come on.
But from here, the story takes an interesting and strangeful turn.
Well, if you were all paying attention to me earlier, which I'm sure you were,
Yes.
you would have noticed that all that washed up on shore were Barknote and the canoe. The princess's body was nowhere to be found. Sure, it's possible that in the throes of death she fell out of the boat, but you'd probably expect to find the body to follow the same direction as the canoe, or in the very least still be found somewhere else in the lake. Apparently, it didn't. In fact, the body was never found anywhere in the lake. In fact, it was later found in Connecticut.
What?
So going back to
Connecticut?
Mel's story, right, it is said that her body was also found in Connecticut.
That's crazy.
Now, to put that into perspective, Lake Ronkonkoma is a landlocked lake. A landlocked kettle lake, to be exact. The definition of a kettle lake, or a kettle hole, or pothole, is a shallow body of water formed by retreating glaciers, or draining floodwaters. And Lake Ronkonkoma was actually formed about 17,000 years ago. You know, if you believe the Earth is that old.
Or round.
As the last great ice age was on its way out. There are no rivers or streams connected to the lake. So how would a dead body cross like 6 miles of dry land to get to the Long Island Sound, where it then traveled about another 10 miles in the water to Connecticut? Any ideas?
I've been thinking about this.
Okay.
And I've been playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. So now I'm going to say dwarven tunnels.
Really?
Yep. Dwarves love making tunnels and shit like that. So I think that they had an underground river that went to Connecticut. And that's
Dwarven tunnels.
And my story has a 50-50 chance of being true. So there, dwarven tunnels.
Dwarven tunnels it
No,
is.
She was murdered. She was totally murdered.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they couldn't have...
But how did her body get all the way to Connecticut? They like put it in a suitcase and mail it or something? Like
Maybe they were already heading that way to sell some of the wood he was cutting.
Ooh.
How about
Wow,
that?
sandwich.
Come on and buy our smooth wood. There's not a stitch of bark on any piece.
Now, question here, Shooey, if you don't mind. I
don't.
Like I mentioned at the top of the hour, I'm geographically impaired, I guess you could say. How far is Connecticut from Long Island? It's like way up the coast, right?
That's right across Long Island Sound. It's about like 10 miles.
Okay.
Ish.
I did forget that
8,
you
10
said
miles.
everything was about 20 minutes from Long Island, so I guess that includes Connecticut. Okay. This is a mental note to consult a map when I am done with this episode. I am really putting my geography teacher to shame right now.
So one thought behind what could have caused this to happen is that the lake is bottomless, which obviously is pretty doubtful, but that's another theory we're going to get to in a little bit. For now, let's get to some of the gruesome statistics about what's been going on around Lake Ronkonkoma since Princess Tuscawanta bid this world adieu.
The Curse of the Lake says that Princess Tuscawanta still haunts Lake Ronkonkoma.
I love it.
Yeah, still going strong.
Perfect. You're
Yeah.
still getting it.
And takes the life of at least one young man every year. Wow, okay, greedy, hello. All right, obviously, we're not going to get any real statistics for what happened over the 200 or so years after the princess's death, but we do have some information since then. Dale Spencer, a local historian, claims that between 1893 and 2014, 166 men and boys died on Lake Ronkonkoma, many of these under mysterious circumstances. Now, most of these victims were seemingly healthy young men, reportedly strong swimmers. As we all are, right?
Oh, that's how I got here.
For sure.
Oh, so how would so many drown in a lake that should have no current? In that time, only 3 women are reported to have drowned. Wow, and she might have just been spearheading on that day. She might have just been like, "Okay,
Whoops,
I've been
no
in a
men
drought.
today."
I gotta get my one for the year. I'm just taking a woman."
She was being experimental.
Yeah, or
Right.
hey, she might be fluid, right?
Hey, that's,
She was in
I
like
love it.
ghostly college, and she was just trying to experiment a little bit.
In my experience, young men tend to take dumb chances and do dumb things that young women look at and think, what the fuck is he doing?
So you're just blaming 166 men's stupidity versus the possibility that a ghost is killing them?
I know it's
That
hard
doesn't
to
sound
believe.
right.
Wow.
Hard
a
to
terrible
believe.
person. I really am awful, so.
Wow.
Oh, the poor men's. They have it. They just have it so
They
rough.
have it so
Yeah.
hard. I know.
I know.
It's
I know,
true.
I know. I mean, wow, the society wasn't built for them. That's for sure.
No, not at all.
No, it's not like we drowned a bunch of times and then had to make up a vengeful lady ghost in order to cover up the fact that we suck at swimming. We don't have any power whatsoever.
Oh,
We get it
bless
now.
it. Well, now, while many people in the area credit the princess for the high death count, there are differing schools of thought as to why she does what she does. The first theory, which is the scarier one, is that she's out for revenge, wanting to get back at all men for what happened to her. That's not scary. That's just every day.
That sounds normal to me.
It's just
I
like,
mean, I get it, sister. It's said that as she lay dying, she made a deal with a native god or demon for the ability to come back and exact her revenge.
Nice.
All right. I need to get the name and number
for
of this
her.
demon.
High five, princess.
I've got some revenge I need exacting here. Okay.
Good honor.
The other theory is the scary love story theory. It says that she is taking the men from the lake because she is still searching for her true love, who Birdsall. And yes, I do have speech impediment, and I cannot say that any other way than who. You're going to have to deal with it.
Really?
Yeah. Other words I would like to say to you are foo, F-E-W, fool, F-U-E-L.
Oh.
And I'm going to stop right there.
Okay.
Now,
all right.
it's a brain to mouth malfunction.
So it's so adorable.
It's very sad. So,
No.
in the future, don't give me those words in any of my scripts. Okay? All right. Obvious, since he died like 300 years ago, back in England, by the way. So, okay. She's not going to find him.
No.
Which is really sad. I mean, 350 years seems like a long time to carry a torch, but hey, she did pass notes for 7 years without ever getting any responses, so I guess she's just not a quitter.
Right.
Good for her, good for you, girl.
All right, so which of you guys think this, the vengeful princess or the lovesick princess?
Well, I think she's the vengeful princess because she was murdered. She was murdered.
Well, that would fit your theory, yes.
So then now she's just taking revenge. She's like, you know what? Fuck you, white man. Fuck you, dad. Fuck all y'all. 1 a year.
I like it.
Yeah. And it's tough because she had to come all the way back from Connecticut to do this. So.
Exactly.
Oh, gosh. I would walk 500. Oops, it's only 10 miles, and I would walk
15 or 20 minutes
miles.
more.
She had the dwarven tunnels to
Oh,
take.
that's
That's
true.
right. She went back through the tunnels.
That's true. Man, she has so many modes of transportation on her side.
It's just a lot of options. It's good to have a lot of choices.
She's crafty, all right? I like
she
her.
gets around.
Now, I'm going
I
to...
also like how choosy she is, because obviously there's more than one person a year that goes swimming in that lake, and she's like, nope. Oh, it's that fucker right there.
I
That's
like
the
it.
one I'm going to get.
She's like, oh, there it is. That's the one. That's the one. Oops,
That's the guy.
This is a woman. I'll take her anyway. She also doesn't discriminate. I like this chick. I like her a lot. I'm going with that she's vengeful just because listen. I am of the old school horror age of like I spit on your grave.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all for a good scorned woman just wreaking havoc. Anyway, thank you for coming to my Mel talk.
Not all of the stories about the lake go back centuries. Some are recent first-hand accounts. Shooey has one. Tell us.
I
What?
do. Yeah. So my story is pretty mild, as you all can tell. I am still alive.
Or are you?
As rugged outdoorsmen like myself are known to do, I went out on the lake in a kayak a few years ago. I wasn't much of a kayaker or kayakist or whatever you call a kayaking person. I'd done it a few times, but I was no pro. But I was feeling a little ballsy that day, maybe because my wife and young daughters were already out on the lake for like an hour doing it. So I paddled out to the middle of the lake. And that's when shit got crazy.
Whoa.
The kayak just started spinning. Like I was in like some sort of whirlpool
Really?
or something. And no, it wasn't and it wasn't because I just kept paddling all on the same side.
Shooey.
I did start doing that, but, you know.
I just have this nice little visual of you just, God, why can't I go straight?
Just keep going. Come on. Come on.
What am I doing wrong?
This just isn't working for me.
I only have the one paddle.
Yeah, there's no cell reception in the middle of this bottomless lake. I can't even YouTube it.
So this continued for what seemed like a really long time, but was probably like not even a minute.
Oh, okay.
And then it just stopped. And everything was fine again. The boat was just settled down. Everything was cool. So my theory is that Tuscawana may have originally seen a dude, a potential victim or lover or whatever she's doing now. Once she got a better look, she just fucking ghosted me.
No, that's
Shooey.
savage.
Shooey, I don't think it was looks. I really think she saw you going in circles and thought, you know what? I'm just going to spare him, okay?
Yeah.
This guy's got enough trouble going in his life.
He's got a lot of life left to live, and he's got a lot of lessons to learn. So.
His whole life seems like a struggle.
She was like, I'm not even doing the spin thing. I don't know what he's doing. I gotta leave him alone.
I have nothing to do with this.
just gonna step back slowly.
Yeah. She said, whoa, okay. You know what? This might be my match, meaning like you might have been able to outwit her. So she was like, not today. Not today.
Well, the next account is from a former lifeguard, Dr. David Igneri, a doctor of colonial history. I'm a pretty uneducated person.
Impressive.
And I'm just gonna say, not a real doctor then, right? I'm kidding.
I'm pretty sure he's still alive, so be nice.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Not sure if he's on the front line.
He's not on the front line on the COVID-19
No, he's not.
crisis.
But he
I need a doctor.
Well,
I can tell you what happened at Gettysburg.
he's protecting the books. He's protecting the books. Which
He's
is
boosting morale by talking about older, worse plagues
Yeah,
that happened
yeah.
during colonial
just not a bad thing. We need those babies protected, okay? So
And I just realized I made a Gettysburg joke about colonial history, so that shows my knowledge there. I'd never be a doctor of colonial history.
oh,
It's you got to do an internship and a residency in Williamsburg, I believe. Dr. Igneri, who is a real doctor, says that in the 32 years he worked at the lake, he's a real doctor. Anyways, from the early 60s into the 90s, there were 30 deaths. All men. All of them, guys.
All of them.
All dudes.
Dr. Igneri told the following heavily paraphrased story to a reporter who questioned him about working at the lake.
It was back in 1965, and I was lifeguarding at the lake again that year. Early in the season, I kept having a recurring dream. I was working at the beach, and out of nowhere, some kid was drowning. I dove into the water to get him. He sank. I tried as long as I could, holding my breath longer than I ever had before, reaching for anything to grab, but I could not find him. The other lifeguards came to help, but nothing. We couldn't find him. He was gone. When I emerged from the water, fireworks exploded over my head.
No.
This dream really freaked me out. I was never a superstitious person, but there was just something so real about it. So I told my boss, and it must have freaked him out too, because he added lifeguards around the 4th of July.
You sound like a doctor of colonial history. I gotta tell you that.
Yeah.
It was the traumatic experience at the lake that made me realize I needed to study colonial history because those people were already dead.
Yeah. What was his name? Dr. David Burgundy and Igneri. Well, unfortunately, having extra lifeguards around on the 4th of July didn't help at all. Surely enough, on the 4th of July, 1965, a 15-year-old epileptic boy... Why was he swimming? And why did they let him swim?
I know.
It was 1965. They pretty much let anybody do anything.
That's true. It's everybody's on their own.
Yeah.
But he drowned, and it's believed that he had a seizure while he was swimming. The lifeguards all dove in to save him, all, 100 of them, and they searched.
Oh, at least.
They searched for 45 minutes and couldn't find him.
That's so sad.
I know. And then they called it off because it was dark.
Oh.
And as Igneri climbed back on shore, the fireworks started.
Ooh, just like the dream.
Right.
It was
as it was foretold. Also, I think we shouldn't have all jumped into the water with flashlights, waving them around. That may have made things worse for the poor son.
So in addition to these stories, swimmers tell of feeling something brush against their legs.
Ooh.
Others tell of something cold grabbing their leg, seemingly trying to pull them under.
Ooh.
Fortunately for these guys, they lived to tell the tale.
Who is it? Jason Voorhees? I mean, what in the world?
It's one of the dwarfs.
They're mad that the natives keep taking their tunnels to Connecticut.
Yeah, and they're not paying the toll.
So a few years ago, a local artist, a sculptor named Todd Arnett, started carving a 32-foot tall sculpture of the princess out of a local tree that grew near the lake. And the artist, while he still hasn't finalized his plans, is thinking of putting Rest in Peace Tuscawanta on the base, hoping to appease her spirit.
So they already had all of these tree problems. It seems apparent to me. So we had woodcutters, we had people who were peeling bark off of them, naked trees, and then let's cut one down to pay homage.
Right? Let's just add to what the real problem is here. I mean, listen, I say go for it with the tribute to her of a statue, but I really hope it doesn't turn out like that bust of Cristiano Ronaldo. Or that statue of Lucille Ball. Otherwise, she's going to be like, really? I'm taking 2 fucking men's a year now. How you like them? How you like them apples?
How you like that shit?
Yeah, but he's probably fucking it up, and it's like, I've made a statue of Hugh Birdbath, or whatever the guy's name was, to commemorate the whole thing. No, said the ghost.
Oh, God.
So in addition to our vengeful / lovesick princess, there are other unexplained phenomena around the lake. And there's the idea that we brought up a little bit earlier about the fact that the lake is bottomless. So obviously for scientific-y reasons that I don't think that we should need to explain, the lake obviously can't be bottomless.
We can try to explain it, though. Come on.
We could. And we will.
Get that lake a pair of fucking slacks, for God's sake.
But there are reasons why people have believed this to be true for hundreds of years. Native Americans were mystified by the lake, telling tales of people drowning and never being found. or being found like in the Great South Bay or Long Island Sound. And just so you know, both of these bodies of water are like 6-7 miles away over land.
Huh.
Oh, that's not surprising. Everything's only 6 to 7 miles away from each other, right?
It's true. Yep, everything's like 15 minutes. So in the early 20th century, a fisherman, a well-known scientist fisherman,
Of course.
tested the theory by dropping over 1,000 feet of heavy fishing line into the lake and never found a bottom.
I did find out, however, that I don't know what a foot is, nor can I count.
They measure things in twains, I thought.
So, it was 20,000 leagues under the sea. So there is some more recent scientific proof that the lake is really only about 90 feet at its deepest, but there's no fun in that story. There are some stories that have perpetuated the belief that the lake is bottomless. Mells.
Well, Porky Pig here. First, of course, you have the story of Princess Tuscawanta's body, but we've talked about her enough, okay? There is also the story of a Connecticut bootlegger from the 1930s during Prohibition. He apparently pissed off some of his fellow bootleggers and was murdered. He was dumped off the coast of Connecticut into the Long Island Sound. Somehow his body washed up in Lake Ronkonkoma. Chameleon. Yes, you are on my wavelength, Shooey. That's scary. Okay. Somehow his body washed up in Lake Ronkonkoma. He still had his body. I messed this up last night too.
He did still have his body. You're right about that.
He still had his body, thankfully. He still had on his body his hat, his wallet, and his flask. And wouldn't you know, the fucking lake took his pants.
There's no mention of any other clothing, so I don't know where he had his wallet or his flask.
He was bottomless and the lake was bottomless.
That's what I'm saying. That's what really the curse of Ronkonkoma is, that it takes your fucking pants. Okay?
Yep.
Like Winnie the Pooh.
It's jealous. Yes. It's a jealous bitch. All right.
Couldn't get home. He's like, I have money for this bus. You have to let me on.
Man. There was another story about a wagon somehow ending up in the lake during the early colonial times. Was probably bad GPS directions from the Oregon Trail or something. Am I right? Am I right? Hey. Wouldn't be. I wouldn't be me without bringing up butts, Oregon Trail, or dysentery. So just got all three right there. However, it happened. Okay. It sank into Lake Ronkonkoma. It was later found on the shores of the Great South Bay, like 7 miles away.
What?
Yes, great. This is crazy. Oh.
And you know, wagons had, you know, serial numbers and stuff, so there was no mistaking it.
Oh, right.
For another wagon.
Let me check the VIN number on this wagon.
I was really falling for that one. So.
My 1693 Cutlass Supreme.
Yeah.
You might not have known this, but in colonial times they had quite a DMV.
The final story about Lake Ronkonkoma is how the water level of the lake rises and falls about every 7 years for no discernible reason.
Huh.
It has nothing to do with rainfall, and like we said earlier, there's no rivers or streams that feed into the lake. According to the book, The Curse of Lake Ronkonkoma, by Michael Ebert, the Native Americans in the area believe this to be the work of Manitos, the great spirit of the lake. And one study from the early 1900s showed that over 7 years, while rainfall in the area was below average, the lake rose 7 feet.
What?
So, yeah.
So
crazy shit.
You're telling me that Manitos has been there the whole time, and we've been blaming everything on poor Tuscawanta?
Oh.
Yeah. Well, what does Manitos have
He's
to
making... He's making it deeper. He's making it easier to drown in by making it more deep.
He's busy worrying about that. He's He's like running. He's like the guy running the dam or something. Like he's just kind of worried about the level. He
Yeah, well,
doesn't care
Manitos,
about
you suck.
people.
All right, you suck.
Wow. That is kind of crazy, though.
Always a woman got to take the fall.
Right.
Yep.
I'm starting to believe all of this, actually.
Right
See?
now,
See?
now it makes sense.
Now
right?
it does make sense, yeah.
It all clicks.
You know what? I'm going to make up a story about a scorned woman because we know all the havoc they can wreak.
Right.
That's right.
No one will ever suspect it's me. Yeah.
A Native American femme fatale.
Yes, and obviously, if we break up with women, we need to be afterwards be able to say, "Look how crazy they were!
Exactly.
They killed a person a year for 200 years."
And this is how you create La Femme Tuscawantas.
Oh.
Well, I think we should give Shooey a big hand.
Yeah, good job,
Thank
Shooey.
Thank you all.
Excellent.
Telling us about
Right.
the haunted lake that's right by his house that I'm sure that you'll bring us to when we all come to visit.
Oh yes, we're going to do the full fucked up Long Island tour.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not coming though unless you take me out in the kayak and we just spin around the lake.
I got a double.
Like a compass needle on a magnet, just spinning
Just
around.
spinning around.
I gotta test this theory.
I'm going to call the Coast Guard ahead of time just to be safe.
It's only a mile wide.
Yeah, but you'll be with the man, so you never know.
Well, no, she's already scoped him.
Oh,
No,
true.
she's already made him.
Yeah, she's already decided she doesn't want me.
She saw his wife and kids, and she was like, "Oh, don't want to get involved in that."
Yeah, like no, peace.
Married man.
Oh, that's a whole mess of a relationship.
He's a married man. Oh God. Okay, I'll wait for the next one to come out.
Well, I think this was a marvelous show, and I'm glad that we learned all this stuff. And if you want to learn more, I guess ask Shooey. What's your Twitter, Shooey, so people can ask you questions about your area?
It's at Shooey time, SHOOEY time
I love that.
on the Twitter.
Yes. What about you, Mells?
At Mells Bells 84.
And Ms. Sandwich?
I'm at the Jen Sandwich.
The show itself is at Strangeful Pod, and I am at Acadia, and you can get us pretty much any time because we don't have a lot going on in between shows.
Oh, that's true. I have an Instagram now. So
Oh,
Yes.
I know.
I saw that.
I know. I'm gonna start Gramming? Instant? I don't know what you do.
Gramming?
I like
don't know.
Gramming.
Gramming?
Let's go with that.
I'm just gonna do
She's
some
on the gram,
Gramming.
y'all.
The gram.
She's
Yeah.
on the gram.
Gramming it up.
Thank you, as always, for listening. You can always rate and review us on your podcatcher of choice. That always helps more people find out that we exist. And if you have any questions or anything like that, you can just email strangefulthings@gmail.com, and we will get back to you. You can also go to our Patreon, patreon.com/strangeful, if you want to keep us alive. I mean, that may have sounded more severe than I meant it to, but yeah, no, it does help out because obviously we need a lot of things. Just ask Sandwich, we all have the wrong microphones.
Yes,
But we'll
we
get
do.
there. We'll get there. So, that's it for this week. Everybody, I want you to have marvelous weeks, and
Yeah, count your blessings, y'all.
Stay safe, everybody.
Yep, take care, everybody. Stay safe.
bye-bye.